Die-hard Frank Zappa fans will recognize the raw technical energy of Terry Bozzio. The plucky and innovative drummer established himself by playing with the aforementioned Zappa through the 70s and 80s, but also played with Steve Vai, Jeff Beck, Missing Persons, UK and many others while still making time to develop his solo career. He's known for his jaw-dropping technique, propensity for absurdly large kits, and pushing the boundaries of traditional drumming. Bozzio was born in San Francisco in 1950. At a young age, he developed a keen interest in both playing drums and assembling different objects to form a drum kit, a pursuit he developed in later life and that we'll discuss further in the video. He graduated from high school with the Music Scholarship Award, went on to study at the College of Marin before playing with a few rock and jazz acts. It was in the early 70s when his break with Frank Zappa came about.
I bought 2 of his records, Live at the Roxy and Elsewhere and Apostrophe, 3 days before the audition, and didn't sleep for 3 days because the records just scared me to death. I'd never heard, the sheer volume of memorization was frightening. The music was really, really difficult at times, and I was completely overwhelmed by it all. And I walked in, and I was a little green jazz drummer from San Francisco. I'd never seen anything like in that studio. It was, big, huge stage, the most difficult music I'd ever seen, spread out all over the stage. There were 2 huge octoplus drum sets, and one drummer would audition while the other drummer set up the other kit while the other guy auditioned, so they were kind of just, to save time, going back and forth, and they were dropping like flies, and Zappa was there with George Duke and Tom Fowler, and he was just, nope, next, sorry. And I thought, there's no way I'm going to get this gig. And I got up there, and I just did the best I could with my audition, which consisted of reading a difficult piece of music called Approximate. And then he tested my memorization. He just said, okay, this is a string of 5s, and then there's a 9 and an 11 and this and that, and then it goes back to the 5s. That's the structure. Go. And then he wanted to hear me play a blues shuffle to check my feel out. And at the end of my audition, he said, I like the way you play, and I want to hear you again after I check out the rest of these guys. And he turns to his road manager, who turns to the other drummers. They start shaking their heads, and the road manager turns back to Frank and says, that's it, Frank, nobody else wants to audition after Terry. And so Zappa turns to me and goes, looks like you got the gig.
Wow.
When someone played with Miles Davis, they were immediately known all over the world. If somebody played with Frank, you were immediately known all over the world. You became famous, and you had credibility that you'd get only from playing with Frank, because people knew that you had to be able to read and play all this complicated stuff as well as do rock and roll or jazz or a variety of styles. So
in various interviews, Bozzio speaks fondly of his time with Frank Zappa, not only because it elevated his status in the world of music and drums, but also because it was extremely formative for him as a musician. He often jokes saying he went to the University of Zappa because the virtuosic bandleader was known for composing very difficult pieces of music and had very high standards when it came to performing those pieces. So, implicitly, Zappa's selection of Bozzio highlights just how much talent he saw in him. Perhaps the best case study for this would be Zappa's The Black Page, a notoriously hard composition written especially for Bozzio. Here's the man himself recounting how the track was conceived.
The Black Page. One day I walked into a rehearsal, and I guess this was 2 years into playing with Frank, so I was fairly comfortable with him at the time. And he walked in and he handed me this piece of music, and he said, what do you think about this, Bozzio? And this was a through-composed piece of drum music for my drum kit at the time. And it was written with very difficult rhythms, melodically up, and every note was written, every tom, every rhythm, every buzz roll. And after a week I could play it for him. And so I played it for him, and he said, great, and he took the drum part back and he wrote the rest of the music, and the harmony and the melody to it, and then we began playing it as a band. One of these pieces I've become famous for, just because Frank wrote it, and it's a really difficult piece of drum music.
It's said that Zappa wrote this piece to intentionally contribute to this collective fear budding musicians would have of entering a studio session and being handed sheet music for an insanely difficult piece of music. In his typically fun, ironic way, Zappa's The Black Page is a mishmash of bars that vary from 4 beats to 5, 7 or 11. He also throws in polyrhythms, odd time signatures, tuplets, nested tuplets, and way more. The key takeaway is that Zappa had Bozzio in mind when devising this notoriously difficult piece, a piece that requires an extremely high level of technical adeptness on the drums, along with limb independence and stick control. Here's an excerpt of Bozzio playing the piece. So we dived into the deep end of Bozzio's musical ability with the Black Page, but his versatility and style of play meant he was more than capable of playing cuts that were a bit more grounded, such as the odd-tempoed wind-up working at a gas station or the frenetic City of Tiny Lights. And it wasn't just Zappa's music that Bozzio smoothly integrated with, he also enthusiastically partook in Zappa's kooky on-stage performances.
Terry recently fell in love with a publicity photo of a boy named Punky Meadows, lead guitar player from a group called Angel.
If you want to support the channel, please donate any amount of your choosing to my Ko-fi page. You can find the link in the top right hand corner now. Shout out as well to Bellroy, who are an Australian accessories brand who have sent me a wallet and key holder. Both very sleek and smart. The wallet has plenty of space for cards, bills, and also has some secret sections. The key holder closes magnetically and safely secures the keys. It's just nicer than having a big clump of keys jangling in your pocket. There's a link to Bellroy's website down below, so check out their products. In the late 70s, Bozzio left Zappa's group and pursued new and varied projects, and it was in workshops, instructional DVDs, and his own solo releases where Bozzio's drumming philosophy really shone through. In a series of interviews and videos throughout his career, he touches on a variety of insightful and important principles, but we'll start with one of the earlier ones in the shape of an instructional video entitled Melodic Drumming and the Ostinato.
Melodic Drumming and the Ostinato is a video that basically deals with two things in a broad sense. One is the idea of improvising within a concept, and the other is an approach to the modern large drum kit. To begin with, improvising within a concept. To me, this means choosing an area that you want to play within and express yourself within, and then using whatever science and logic to gain all the basic possibilities within this area. And I know a lot of other drummers have huge drum kits, and we're not really utilizing all of it. So what we want to do is show you a way to bring out the full potential and capabilities in a very musical way of utilizing a large drum kit. Got an octave here.
Da, da, da. So you get the real oriental thing.
Yeah, so piano player can play a bass line with his left hand and play chords or melody with his right hand. So I feel I'm doing nothing more than applying musical techniques that have been applied to keyboard playing for the past 200 or 300 years to the drum set. And the drum set is a very modern instrument. It's just a baby instrument. It had its, origins around the turn of the century and then was formalized into its, the drum set as we know it today around the 30s and the 40s. So that's like 65, 60 years old, something like that.
So really you're doing melodic counterpoints as well as it's rhythmic, which is a lot of people think drums is rhythmic.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm going to say later.
He's a musician or he's a drummer,
Right.
but
I try and make music on the drums. I try and approach the drum set like a microcosmic orchestra. I try and deal with not only rhythm, but with melody, with harmony, with dynamics, with orchestration. Try and put it together in a package, which is the composition or the form.
That second video there was an interview he conducted while touring in Australia. Listening to him in both videos discussing these concepts is intriguing, especially when you consider how they relate to his performance on tracks like The Black Page, or this track from a release he did with Tony Levin and Steve Stevens, bearing in mind his aim to play the drums as a melodic instrument. Melodic drumming and the ostinato are two fundamental principles of Bozzio's playing, but he was only able to explore these concepts so fluidly through extensive, rigorous practice. Here's another excerpt from an instructional video where he talks about altering traditional rudiments to make them extremely challenging.
Rudiments from Hell are basically standard rudiments which I've altered to make more difficult, and sometimes they're purposefully so difficult that you can hardly play them. And I found that that's really helped my control and my technique. This one here is had its roots in a single flammed mill, and I've added a flammed rough where the flam was to make it more difficult. And this deals with a situation where I'm coming off of one of these flammed roughs, which has a double stroke, and I have to immediately play another right. So I have to recover from the double and play another single immediately, and that's what's so difficult about it and what's so challenging.
Like any great drummer, Bozzio recognizes the value of practice and sought to push himself as much as possible so that his technical ability would enable him to explore the aforementioned concepts. This relates to another topic Bozzio raises in an interview he did later on in his career, in which he outlines 4 elements that a drummer should strive to balance when they're playing. I found this to be a really novel and insightful approach, especially in the section where he gives examples of the archetypes of drummers that haven't yet found that balance.
You know, Jung talks about man's fivefold psyche. Psyche means soul. Your soul is made up of your intellect and your emotions and your physical body and your intuition. When you think about these psychological types and aspects, all 4 of those aspects have to be somewhat in balance. You know, you have to be physically able to perform. You have to be intellectually aware and keyed in to what's happening. It's an idea just kind of comes out of the subconscious and you play it. You know, you can't just go, wow, that was great. You know, you have to be paying attention in order to repeat it and develop it and, you know, do something with it that makes sense. And then emotionally, you have to play with feeling, but you can't get too emotional and overactive in that area. And then you have to play, you know, with this openness and intuitiveness that allows for something to come through that isn't what you necessarily planned, you know, and kind of go with that. So, you know, to the best of my ability, that's how I describe the feeling of playing and being on stage. You know, I've seen a lot of drummers play who are good examples of each one of those aspects, but maybe out of balance. You know, like there's a physical animal who's just like faster and stronger than anybody, but, you know, doesn't play with, you know, once you've seen 5 minutes of fast and strong, that's all there is, you know. And there's emotional guys who are, you know, capable of playing, you know, with great feeling, but God forbid if they get in a fight with their girlfriend before they go on stage, then they can't play. There's the intellectual who could read fly specs, but if you ask him to play a simple beat with some feeling, he can't do that. And then there's the intuitive who might play something amazing one time, but not know where it came from, not know what it was, and not know how to repeat or develop it. Then be a very sort of inconsistent player, you know, where one night he's touched by God and the next night he can't play to save his life.
It's worth mentioning Bozzio's drum kits not only because the very mention of his name evokes images of colossal drum sets, but because, as discussed, they are linked to his style of play and composition.
I spend more time, you know, like I say, under the hood of that thing with a wrench in my hand than I do probably playing. I'm always looking for a way to make things cleaner or better, or if I find when I'm playing I'm frustrated about something, I'll try and build something that will, you know, acclimate my being able to realize an idea that I can't realize because of technical problems or something. So
Terry Bozzio is a captivating drummer whose connection to and curiosity with the instrument have led him to move beyond how it's traditionally played. His commitment to the drumming community when it comes to sharing knowledge in the form of clinics and instructional materials is also a testament to his love of the art form and his desire to inspire future generations of drummers. If you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts or stories on Terry Bozzio, please leave them down below in the comment section, along with any other suggestions for drummers you'd like me to cover in future videos. Thank you.